So Marie Kondo has famously said that in order to declutter your home, it's important to only keep items that spark joy and simply get rid of everything else. But what if what actually sparks joy are 4-hour-long videos about hotel failures that generate millions and millions of views? I think that's pretty special, and that sparks a lot of joy. So in this video, I'm going to cover some of my favorite channels on YouTube that I think really exemplify what are the best that the platform has to offer. And then at the very end, I'll talk about why I'm choosing to relaunch my channel after about a 2-year hiatus, which in YouTube years is, is forever. But anyways, let's dive into it with the first channel, which is Jenny Nicholson. And I think Jenny's channel is a perfect exemplification of what makes YouTube a really special place. And it's because she can focus on truly extraordinarily niche content, whether it's bronies or weird theme parks, or in this case, the video I mentioned before, which was legitimately a 4-hour-long video, which in itself breaks all sorts of YouTube rules about what makes for a successful video. For the longest time, I operated on this assumption that a video couldn't be too much longer than 10 to 15 minutes, or people would simply lose attention and move on. Which maybe if I'm boring enough would happen regardless, no matter what length. But hey, I think that's why Jenny is a standout, because she has all sorts of content that is often multiple hours long and still thrives. Almost everything she does generates millions of views, which is unbelievably impressive. So in the case of the Star Wars hotel video, this was a $400 million hotel made by Disney. So one would assume if there were ever to be a company that would be successful at running a hotel or running some sort of attraction, Disney is probably on like the tippy top of what that list looks like. But they spent $400 million making this hotel, marketing it, launching it, and then it failed, if my memory is right, within a year, which is an unbelievable failure. But if it weren't for Jenny's video, I simply never would have known that hotel existed, which, maybe that speaks to why it failed. And I also wouldn't have ever found Jenny's channel because it was randomly recommended. And I don't know why. I was like, let's watch a video that's 4 hours long on this subject. But it was so captivating throughout. And she actually went to that hotel. She documented every aspect of her stay there and did a pretty brutal takedown of why it failed and how her experience was just really flawed in a number of ways. So if you're kind of a weird nerd like me where that kind of content speaks to you, I highly recommend it. She has other videos like the last BronyCon about the Brony fandom, millions of views on that. She did a video about, I don't even know if I can call this a theme park, but it's called Everland, which was meant to be a live action role-playing experience where you'd interact with actors, but they never actually finished the theme park. They eventually seemed to lay off almost all the actors. So when people went, they just kind of went into this unfinished themed area and had to find their own fun, which I'm very surprised that failed. Who would have thought that would happen? But certainly I think on the tippy tops of what makes YouTube special is the fact that this kind of content on obscure topics can not only exist, but also thrive. And I think in Jenny's case, she's ultra successful at this. She has one of the most successful Patreons I've ever seen. So ultimately, kudos to Jenny on that one. And the next channel I'm going to shout out is CGP Grey, which does educational content. And I think I discovered this channel when I had got selected for jury duty. So I did what any reasonable person would do after being selected for jury duty. And I did a quick Google search of how to get out of jury duty, to which I found a video of his on a concept called jury nullification. And jury nullification is like this obscure kind of like legal theory about what you could do if you were selected to a jury, that if a lawyer knew that you knew, you'd simply be removed. And jury nullification is essentially when, like, let's say someone gets charged with a crime and you simply disagree with that crime for whatever reason. So maybe there was a law like, hey, if there's a cat stuck in a tree, you can't get that cat down. Like that's super illegal. Don't ever get the cat down. And you think that is a stupid law. And you were selected to be on a jury where someone got that cat out of that tree. The cat is thrilled, but the person's going to be locked up. You're like, don't touch the cat. They touch the cat. But you want to effectively like protest or go against this ruling. So as a juror, at least in the US, since you can't be, it's not a crime the way you vote in a jury, you can believe someone is guilty while still voting not guilty, effectively nullifying, that particular verdict. So he has a video on the history of this. I found it super fascinating. He also made it clear, don't actually tell people about this if you plan to do it, and don't express this because you could potentially get in trouble. But I don't know the legal reasons, but just the way that story captivated me and how compelling the information was had me dive down a bunch of his other videos. And it's all fantastic, so super recommend his channel as well. The next channel I want to shout out is Adam Savage's Tested. And this channel has been around for quite a while. And if you don't know, Adam Savage is from Mythbusters, and I watched that show growing up. I think that show is no small part of why I switched my college major from graphic design to furniture design, of which I would say maybe furniture design wasn't a great degree to go after because maybe there's not a lot of furniture design jobs out there, but not Adam's fault. In any case, this channel has evolved a lot over time, but now it's really focused on being a point of view channel for Adam, and there's multiple hour-long videos on this as well of Adam making various objects. So if you want to watch him make some obscure movie prop in great detail, that exists. But I'm shouting this out specifically because I can tell Adam legitimately loves doing what he does. He loves making these items. He loves talking about them. And it makes me happy that there is an outlet for this and that this content can continue to exist. Because while Mythbusters, for example, was great for cable TV, what he does now is way too obscure. It would never be commercially viable on a platform like that, but he can find a lot of success on YouTube. And I think that's fantastic. So if you're interested in making and creating things, I think that is an awesome channel to check out. And now quickly, we have a couple of different health-related channels. And I'm always cautious with health-related stuff on YouTube because unfortunately there's a lot of bad information, misleading information, or people trying to sell you weird pills to do things to help you that actually don't do anything at all and might actually hurt you. But I'm going to stay away from that drama aspect of it all and talk about Jeff Nippard. And Jeff is a natural bodybuilder, which isn't to scare you off his fitness stuff, because ultimately he just gives really good advice and suggestions that are actually backed by science. He looks into the studies. He actually recently did a video where he commissioned a study because people were challenging some of his advice. So he was like, hey, the most reasonable thing to do here is actually commission a really high quality study and figure out what the truth is. We can learn through this study, which I respect immensely because that is going above and beyond to be acting in good faith and really challenging your own beliefs to make sure you're being honest to the people who watch you. So if you want science-backed lifting advice, Jeff Nippard, fantastic. We also have a mental health channel called Healthy Gamer GG, which is run by Dr. K, who is a licensed physician. And I think it's a great way to get mental health advice that really looks into the Eastern philosophies as well, because he actually studied to be a monk. And there's some griftery people that do similar stuff to that, but Dr. K is not that. I just think the way he shares his point of view is super compelling. I've learned a lot watching that channel and really challenged some of my own beliefs, or more accurately, perhaps was able to look at things through a slightly different lens, which I just think is awesome. So both Jeff as well as Dr. K, I think, are great examples of the positive side of health-related stuff on YouTube. And just two more here. One is Hagerty, which I think is the biggest outlier on this entire list. And Hagerty is a car-related channel. I have been a car nerd forever. I remember being a little kid growing up and I saw a Porsche on the road and I hey mom, look at that. That car's amazing. And she said, a guy I used to work with had one and he sold it to buy a minivan. And I was like, who? I will never buy a minivan. Can you imagine making that decision? But anyways, Hagerty is actually a pretty large company that funds a YouTube channel, which is typically a recipe for disaster. There's been a bunch of other car-related YouTube channels that very recently have all effectively failed. Well, maybe not failed, but all the creators that made them famous left after large venture capital firms came in, bought them up, and significantly changed what that channel was and how it was run. But I look at Hagerty as being kind of the absolute best of the old Top Gear, where you had Jeremy Clarkson, James May, Richard Hammond, when they did the car reviews, because Hagerty is able to fund this channel to have that kind of production quality. It's like 10 out of 10, fully professional production quality, while still doing a type of content that is no longer commercially viable on TV. Like Top Gear has had to really pivot, and even the original Top Gear guys, when they went to Amazon to do the Grand Tour, effectively stopped doing true car content like reviews and really focused on the wild adventures they had, which I still think is amazing, but it's different. Like that sort of content could no longer viably exist on TV. So the fact that it still exists on YouTube at a true professional level is really awesome. And then the last channel, probably the most niche channel I'm going to shout out. And I'll say I discovered this channel when the OceanGate Titan sub blew up next to the Titanic, which I did what any reasonable person would do. I decided, Matt, you got to become an expert on subs. And I stumbled across Oceanliner Designs when I watched a video about the sub and this person's point of view on what happened, the various safety things. And I thought the presenter was just really honest. It wasn't sensational. It was just someone trying to express their knowledge and give more information about a subject that, at least to me, was really fascinating and honestly continues to be really fascinating. But that isn't the focus of his channel, because his channel is focused on ocean liners, which they're not really cruise ships, because now people are on cruise ships just to, slowly move around to really beautiful areas, where an ocean liner was meant for travel. And I think specifically on the Atlantic, across the Atlantic for the US and across various places in Europe. So the Titanic would be by far the most famous ocean liner. And the majority of his content tends to focus on the Titanic, probably because I'm assuming it gets the most views. But I've watched a handful of videos across it, and I think it's like watching a really good PBS documentary about these various ships. He spends a ton of time researching. He's a very good and compelling presenter, extremely professional. But this is the kind of stuff that if you are a lover of ocean liners, which transparently I'm not, it isn't a subject that really drives me. But the content itself is just so compelling, I'll watch those videos and usually walk away with a point of view of, why would anyone get on these ships? Because they all seem to end in the most horrific way possible, like being blown up in World War II or crashing into icebergs or it just seems bad. So I am thankful that modern travel is much better than that. But when I started watching that channel, I think he had like 100,000 or 200,000 subscribers, which is still a lot, but I think he's around 500,000 now. So he's really found his footing, found an audience for the type of content that he cares about, for the subject matter that he cares most about. And I think that's amazing. That makes me really happy. And I think what stands out about basically all of these channels to me is that the creators of these channels tend to have a really strong point of view. They have a compelling point of view that you simply want to learn more about. And it doesn't really matter if you deeply love the subject that they're talking about, because it's so interesting to hear their take on it. I think Jenny Nicholson is a great example of that, where I'm not a theme park buff. I haven't been to a theme park since I was, I think, in junior high. But when I watch those videos, I'm fascinated by the way she presents that information, because she's showing me things that I would simply never see if I didn't check that out. So that to me is something special. And when that comes to why I'm relaunching my own channel, my channel historically has been focused on design content, but the problem is I haven't been a designer in close to 10 years. It's been a really long time. And at some point, when you're not doing that work day in and day out, you're just no longer learning things and you don't have much more to share. So there wasn't really a desire from me to talk more about that, because I felt like I didn't have anything to offer. So I've tried over the years to figure out, how do I reposition or pivot this to talk about things I do care about, but I never felt like I figured that out. But now I've seen a really big trend on YouTube, which is that long form content can actually be successful. So I no longer feel pigeonholed to have to make short videos or videos that are produced in a certain way. To me, it just doesn't matter. And I don't have to worry about chasing the most views or getting the most subscribers. I effectively killed my channel by not making anything for a couple of years. It's one of the worst things you can do. But I want to just focus on sharing stuff that I genuinely care about. If I'm nerding out about a subject or I find something really fascinating, I want to take the time to share my thoughts on that and just express my point of view. So that's really my focus moving forward. There won't be any sort of pigeonholed content type. But I think over time, it'll become clear about the types of things that I'm interested in. So if you're a nerd in the same way that I'm a nerd, and you find my point of view on that stuff at all interesting, this will be a great channel. Or maybe you don't care about what I'm talking about, and you're just like, hey, I watch this because it helps me fall asleep. To which I say, more power to you. I'm happy to help do that. But historically, all my content has also been screen share when I was doing design tutorials and stuff like that. So this has been a way for me to figure out a bunch of the video production stuff, which honestly is like the deepest, darkest rabbit hole in terms of trying to get video to look good and get the lighting right. I don't know anything about it. So you can rate that, like in terms of what I could do to make that better. But I've got things in a point where I think it looks pretty good and I feel confident just moving forward with that. And ultimately, I think it's important that we push outside of our comfort zones because honestly, doing this, it's kind of like weird staring into a camera and knowing that people will watch you. So it's a way for me to challenge myself and do something new. And I think it's just important in life to always be pushing, like trying to learn new stuff, like how to make video look good, trying to push yourself to do things that you weren't comfortable doing and hopefully grow and just do better through that experience. But that wraps up what I have to talk about. But I'll say jump into the comments if you have a subject that you want me to talk about, or if you've been nerding out about something that you think I would enjoy digging into and potentially making a video on in the future. I am more than happy to steal ideas. I have a handful of ideas that I want to run with moving forward, but I'm just going to keep a list of anything interesting and I'll kind of go down that over time. It's my goal to make about one video every month. So, 2 months from now when I don't do that, you can call me out. Stranger things have happened. And it's my hope because I consume so much content to share some of that back out. But that's really it for this video. If you like this, please subscribe. I wonder if I'm one of the only people that still actually uses my subscription window all the time. So feel free to subscribe, hit the button, bell, whatever the current YouTube thing is, like do the things. But until the next one, appreciate you getting this far, and thank you.